What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be doing a trade recap on the two trades I took today, what I did right, what I did wrong, how I can improve going forward, and how you can learn from my mistakes and what I did right today. So starting out, going into the day, I had marked out these equal lows, these equal, well, not equal highs, but yeah, relative equal highs. And relative equal lows. I also had marked that on the, so that 2 hour. Yeah, we were holding this 2 hour volume imbalance on ES, where NQ had already tapped into it and rejected it. I then noted that we had a higher time frame S&T here. ES ended up taking this high, NQ did not. So we had 8:30 unemployment claims and then 10 a.m. PMI, which was what I was essentially waiting for before I really took anything. But once we got that liquidity sweep here on ES, and I saw we had pretty strong SMT, I didn't really anticipate on price coming any higher, which is when I decided to zoom in. Notice that we had this SMT right here, held the imbalance after we displaced to the downside on the 1 minute. I entered once we broke structure to the downside for my first entry. I did end up getting stopped out here. I closed my position once it looked like we were about to run this 1 minute because we were still holding a 5 minute and we had this SMT at the lows right here. But in hindsight, I don't really think I should have closed because price just rebalanced to the discounted fair value gap. Well, to this discounted fair value gap here, we ended up holding it. My stop realistically should have been at this SMT high, or any point where the SMT would have been invalidated. So more so up here, which is my fault. I was more so just kind of impatient. I definitely could have held it. It's nothing wrong with being in drawdown, as long as your trade is still valid. And my trade was still valid where I closed it, so that was an avoidable loss. And going forward, I'm definitely going to try to work on that. But yeah, once I did notice that we did end up holding it and we displaced back to the downside, I entered back on this break of structure right here. Stop was right above the high, so my risk was very well. The risk to reward was about I think it feels like here. My risk to reward was like, yeah, 4.8 R. I could have went a lot heavier because what I'm trying to risk on this account is usually like 3 to 500 max. I was only risking, I think like 80 or $90. So definitely in hindsight could have risked more. Part of it was just that I already had taken a loss, and I don't like to size up after losing. That's usually how people spiral and end up blowing accounts. So I just kept it at what it was, but I definitely could have sized up more. I'm just kind of used to trading with a certain amount of contracts, especially when no matter what the stop is, I just enter in. I could have scaled. I didn't. Now where I could have scaled at was right down here when I was watching. So price ended up rebalancing into this 2 minute. And once we did displace off it, I kind of figured it was going to be a protected high. So when you go into the 30-second here, this close below with the SMT, you can see SMT with the close below is definitely not a bad spot to scale in at. My only thing was I got filled at a very good spot, and I didn't really want to move my fill all the way down to here because it's going to get averaged out. And say we do end up holding new day open, we shoot up and I move my stop to break even, I'm getting stopped a lot lower versus if I kept my initial entry, which is up here. Because price could have easily came back up, stopped me out, and then continued to run. So that was kind of the reason I didn't scale in. In hindsight, I'm not really mad at it. I know that it'll be better opportunities to scale in the future, and that's more so what I'm worried about. So yeah, the reason why I didn't take a partial at this low right here, that line with new day open, which is because based off the 15 minute, I felt like we were almost certain to go to these equal lows, and then honestly, the standard deviation levels was lined up with these lows down here. As you can see, when you mark it out on the 15-minute, it did appear to be a very clear sell model. You see here, every standard deviation level met, and we're now respecting 2 to 2.5 on the 15-minute. And that's also the beauty with these markets, price is fractal. So what's happening on the 15-minute is also happening on the 5-minute, which is also happening on the 1-minute. It's also happening on the 30-second, which is also happening on the daily, and so on. So that was the reason why I wasn't really worried about closing here. We did get a good reaction. It did look like a potential liquidity sweep, and we were going to get bought back up, but I was confident in the external draw, which is why I never took any partials here. So yeah, it's honestly a textbook sell model. Very clean PA today. My main target was these equal lows, and then I wanted to see price come to these standard deviation levels. Now the reason I did end up closing early is because the 30-second break of structure here, we closed above a 1-minute as well. I honestly didn't really want to see price come back up. My stop was up here, my trailing stop. In hindsight, I shouldn't have closed, obviously. I shouldn't have closed because price wasn't even near my stop. I was just kind of more so impatient and greedy. I just wanted to take what was on my screen, and I ended up leaving a good chunk of change on the table because of that. So that's something I'm looking to work on going forward as well. Just understanding where to trail my stops at and when to close early versus hold. That's been kind of one of my biggest things as well, because I ended up missing out on another 50-60 points if I would have just held to standard deviation like how I said I wanted to. But all in all, very happy with today. It's a Thursday, August 1st. Good start to the month, starting off green. So yeah, I can't really complain about it. These are the type of problems that I don't mind having, because I know once I do improve on them, then everything else is going to follow through. So that was essentially my bias going into the day. Why I traded what I traded, how I could have done better, what I did right. Well, let me highlight what I did right. What I did right was really the draw and liquidity, and I think one of my biggest things is just not closing here. When I know a lot of people did take partials here, I stuck to my, I guess, instinct and the higher time frame narrative, which I think is one of the hardest things for newer traders, is just understanding contextual bias and when certain things should work versus when they shouldn't. Because it was a clear liquidity sweep and an internal break of structure coming off of a bullish PD array, but when you understand what the higher time frame is doing and why we should run things versus why we should hold things, I think that's when a lot of traders see that breakout and see the breakthrough. And I felt like we had no reason to just sweep them lows and go back higher, especially after we already swept the highs. SMT rejecting off of volume imbalance. We had a lot of reasons not to really go back higher off of that, so that is why I didn't close here. And yeah, that's essentially it. I'm done for the day. I'm gonna take my winning. Come back tomorrow. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see y'all.